Hello, all. Welcome back to Career Talk with Chelsea. This week, we're going to talk about documentation. In episode 3, we spoke about, I told you all. I talked to you all about managing up and what that actually meant. But in the process of managing up, what is a critical action that you must do to ensure that your managing up efforts and all your work efforts can be properly notarized, noted, and actually understood? That's actually documentation. How are you documenting your success? How are you documenting the activities that you're doing? How are you keeping track of what you're doing on the day-to-day basis? Very often, we can sit down with managers or we can sit down in our one-on-ones, but generally this happens when we sit down and we have a performance review, or when you have to do a self-assessment. Where is your documentation on what you have done? Are you keeping all of that in your head, or are you writing these things down? So on this episode of Career Talk with who? Me, Chelsea. We're going to talk about documentation and how you can document, why it's important, and what needs to be documented, and what you can actually do with all that information that you're capturing as it relates to your activities that you're doing, meetings that you're having, outcomes to those meetings, your successes, whether or not you're meeting your goals, all of the things. So stay tuned. Okay, so let's just dive right in. We're talking about documenting your successes. You know what? And also too, probably your failures, but we're not going to call them failures. We're going to talk about them as lessons learned. That's a project management tool or tip or activity that I've had to do several times as a project manager. But let's just jump in. Let's talk about why documenting your activities at work is important. I can give you at least, and I'm going to probably give you at least 10 reasons why it's important. Number one, documenting your work or your activities at work helps you keep accountable. You have a a summary of the work that you're actually doing. So it's helped you staying accountable to the task and your responsibilities that you have completed, or that you need to be complete, that you need to have completed, or you need to complete. Sometimes we can start a day and you have 1,000 things that's rolling around in your head that you need to complete. Get those things out your head. Get it down on a piece of paper so you can stay accountable to what you're doing, so you can get things done. Get those meetings scheduled and attended, and get those action items completed. So it helps you stay accountable. It helps your memory. I was literally could be laying in the bed at the beginning of the day and can think of 3 things that I want to get done. If I don't write those things down, they're not going to be done. They're just going to continue to be thoughts, things I'm thinking about getting done, or things I need to get done. But if I don't write them out, I will not get them done. So it helps my memory. As we get older and wiser, we take on so many other tasks, so many other hats, so many other things that we are responsible for, that we are relying too much on our memory to do all the things for us, when we can just take a piece of paper or even record a note. I've started doing that, doing voice recordings, recording notes, or typing things up in my phone, using my calendar in my phone or my Google Calendar to just jot down quick notes and set reminders to remind me to do those things. So it's a memory aid. It's also a communication tool. When you need to share something with your colleagues, oftentimes it can be very good, very successful, very helpful for you to just go off the dome, or just, can just have a conversation about all the ideas. However, sometimes you need to jot things down, because when you're working on projects, or you're getting things done, or you're assigning tasks to others, or you're following up on those tasks that you assigned to others, you need something to help you clearly communicate what your expectations are. I am a great communicator. Oftentimes, I'm not a great speaker, because what I'm thinking about, the words that I'm thinking about in my head, oftentimes do not come out, or the words that come out are not necessarily it's not necessarily coming out to formulate the idea that I'm having in my head. And I'm sure you all notice this when listening to my podcast. So it helps you be able to clearly communicate the ideas and the thoughts that you want to be able to communicate. It helps you be efficient. Documenting your activities helps you be efficient, because it's a record of the past work, or a record of the work that you've done. It can help you identify patterns. It can help you streamline processes. A lot of the processes that I've ever created came from notes that I've taken, or notes that someone shared with me. But it helps you be efficient, and it can help you avoid repeating mistakes, because you have a document, or you have documentation of how something went, a practice, a process, or a procedure, the activities that came out of that practice, process, and procedure. You have that information, so you'll know, okay, so I created this process. It had 6 steps. In implementing this process, I realized that we only need 2 or 3 steps, or I only need to do 3 steps. But if you're documenting those things that you're doing, you're able to document for efficiency. So it helps you be efficient, and it helps you save time when you're getting people on board to understand, or to do the actions that you want them to do, and to understand the concept that you're sharing with them. Having a documentation, writing down these thoughts, having some kind of notes on your ideas, activities, help you with being efficient. And the main reason, I would say, well, not the main reason. It's 2 main reasons. One reason that I consider is the main reason for you to document your work and your activities at work is for problem solving. When issues arise, you can have a documented record on what happened in the past, and you can trace your steps back to identify the source of the issue. Oftentimes, or sometimes, when you're working on projects, or you're doing your work, and you can come across an experience, and you're feeling like it's deja vu, or your experience that you're feeling like, okay, I addressed this in the past. What did I do? Having that information documented will tell you exactly what you did in that similar situation, or the same situation, different day, different person that you're dealing with. But having that documented, having it written down, having those notes, you can go back to it and actually say, hey, same thing happened. This is what I did. These are the steps that I made to be able to avoid a problem growing bigger, or avoiding an issue getting larger. Okay, this is the main reason you want to document. Performance evaluation. It comes to the end of the year, and you think you've told your manager, you're managing up, you're having all these great meetings with your manager, you're providing them insights on what you're doing, you're following up, you're doing all the things. However, it gets to performance evaluation time, and you have to do a self-assessment. You have to talk about the things that you've done great, the things that you've been amazing with, things that you've struggled with, your goals. Have you achieved your goals? How are you going to remember all of those things if you have not documented somewhere? And also, too, you're managing up. You're meeting with your manager. You're having these great meetings. You're problem solving. You're setting goals. You're reaching goals. You're doing the things. You're, making a list, checking it twice. And it gets to your performance evaluation. And your manager, you're meeting with them on a regular basis. You're doing all the things. But is your manager actually documenting what's happening in those meetings that you're meeting? That's what those meetings and the times that you all are getting together. Are you going to just rely on their perception or their documentation on what happened? No, you need your own as well. I remember a time when I was an executive assistant, had a performance evaluation. And a part of my performance evaluation, it asked about, the things that you've done outside of the scope of your position, outside of the scope of your job. And to assist my director help with a client, I ended up doing a bill review. This client did not have enough lines to actually have their own account manager or their account team. So I ended up doing a bill review for them. I started doing it monthly. I had one of our account managers teach me how to do a bill review, teach me how to do those things. And I started doing it for them monthly, sending them out a monthly report, letting them know where they were, creating a little dashboard, creating all the things. And my manager asked me to do this once. And as I did it once, having created a rapport with that client, I started doing it on a regular basis. So for them to help them understand what was happening with their account. But my manager only thought I did it once, because even though I'm meeting with her, I'm talking to her on a regular basis, sharing the things that I'm doing, that piece of information was just something she thought I did was a one-time thing, not something that I did monthly. So I had to remind her. I had to actually show her my action items, show her the steps that I was taking, show her compile the emails that I was sending. But because I had that documented, that not only I was did it once, but I was doing it monthly, and I would add it to my daily task list. I would add it to my weekly summaries that I would send to her and my monthly summaries that I would send to her. However, that got missed from my performance evaluation. So, and that was one of the things when you think of your performance evaluation, depending on how you're actually evaluated, you're thinking you're doing like above and beyond, or you think you're at, let's just say you're using this a scale from 1 to 5. You're thinking you're doing all your work was a 5, but your manager rates you as a 4, and you don't understand why. But having that documentation of what you've been doing that gets you to that 5, and those things that you do above and beyond your job description, and not one of those things all other tasks as assigned. No, this wasn't even assigned to you. This is something that you've decided to do to be able to be a better manager or leader or whatever things that you're doing. But those are the things that get you to a 5. Those are the things that get you to a 10. But you have to have some kind of documentation to share with your leader. Hey, yeah, these are the things I'm doing. And also, too, it's good for knowledge transfer. You're not going to stay at your job forever. You're not going to stay in that position forever. What happens when you get promoted? What happens when you want to get promoted? Sometimes people get stuck in positions because they have all the knowledge. They know all the things, and they can't move on because they're the knowledge bearer of this position. But if you're documenting, if you're taking copious notes, if you're creating processes, writing out the processes for the things that you're doing, you have a historical document, a document that you can transfer the knowledge that you have in this position to someone else so you can actually move on. People don't realize, and I think I'm going to do a podcast on that people don't realize oftentimes the reason they do not get promoted is not because of the amazing work you do. It is because of the amazing work you do, and you cannot be replaced. So you have to create documentations. You have to create the ability for someone to step in your shoes, sit in your seat, and do a good job. They're not going to be as amazing as you. That's not what's going to happen. But they're going to be able to continue that work that you're actually doing because you're documenting so efficiently, and you're providing documentation for that next person to do what it is that you're doing. And it also, too, risk management. Documenting activities help you identify potential risk, where you're vulnerable in your processes and the things that you're doing day to day, because you have a document that you can actually go back to, read through. As I mentioned earlier, when you're thinking about problem solving and looking at issues, those documents can help you remember where something went wrong, what you did to write it, and the outcomes from that. So risk management. Also, too, quality assurance. Sometimes we don't think about QA if QA is not one of our job functions. But QA is a part of everything we do because we want to be able to look at or go back and look at the things that we're doing, the actions that we're taking, the steps that we're taking, and look at the standards and making sure they comply with whatever established procedures or guidelines that you have in place. And oftentimes we don't do that for ourselves in general, but that's what you can do when you're keeping copious notes, you're documenting, you're doing your checklist, you're doing your activity list. Go back and look at it and see, okay, was this my best work? Not only was this my best work, was this the job that needed to be done? Did this adhere or align with the standards or how it should be done? Just to be able to go back and check on those things. And with this QA check that you're going to do on the work that you're doing, it's continuous improvement. I work for a manufacturing company, so I'm in a manufacturing environment, so we're using lean. So we have to continuously think, are the steps I'm making the best steps for the outcome that I need, or can I trim down or move and stop doing something, add something to make this process or make this activity or make this job even better? You should always be looking at continuous improvement in the actions that you're doing. That's why you listen to my podcast, because you're continuously improving yourself. But continuous improvement. So when you think about documenting at work, we're going to go back, make a little checklist. We're going to think about continuous improvement and ensure that the steps that you're doing is the right steps for you. It's quality assurance. It's risk management that you're thinking about. Being able to transfer that knowledge so you can get out that position and get you a new one. For your performance evaluation, please do not forget your performance evaluation. It helps you to be able to problem solve, helps you become efficient. Great communication tool, helps your memory, and it keeps you accountable. So that's your episode. I think this is episode 8 with Career Talk with Chelsea. With who? Me, all together. I want to hear it. I want to feel you saying it. Chelsea. So that's why documenting your work is important. I got this topic from one of my LinkedIn network pals. She listens to my podcast. I didn't ask her if I should shout her out, but she listens to my podcast, and we every week she'll send me a message. I greatly appreciate that too. So continue on the great work that you all are doing, and listen in next week when I bring you some more of my career musings, thoughts, ideas, and topics. Have an amazing rest of your week and have an awesome day. Bye. Okay. Hey y'all, it's me. I'm back. That was not episode 8. It was actually episode 9. See, I went back and looked at my notes. That was episode 9, not episode 8. So there we go. That's why documentation is very important. Okay. Talk to y'all. Well, I'm not talking to y'all. I am talking to y'all. We'll talk to y'all later. Goodbye.